Anybody stuffed apples before? No? Yes? The simplest way to stuff these is with a core. Cores aren't very popular anymore. Everybody went to those core slicer dicers. Okay? If you have one at home, I know I do actually because I have Tupperware and Tupperware made them for years. You want to core them out, but don't go through the bottom. Okay? You want to leave a little bit of the bottom so your stuff doesn't fall out when you pick them up. Okay? If you don't have a core, any type of skinny paring knife, boning knife, fillet knife, man, it's really raining out right now. How many people are glad they're in here and not out there right this second? Me too. Apple and a really skinny knife. Oh well. The easiest, the best way, however not the safest, is to take your apple and lay it on the side. Okay? Put your knife in and you're going to work around the core with it. Now the reason I say this isn't the safest is because everyone tends to roll this to where the knife is then facing them and then re-grab it. Okay? Keep your hand on top and keep the apple down and go down a little bit and then roll it. And continue to go around with the blade facing the board. As soon as you go like this and you turn that knife to you, I promise you're going to slip and it's going to hurt. Okay? So you can do this safely and it's okay to do, but make sure your knife stays down towards your board. And as you roll your apple back, keep your hand on top, keep the blade facing down. Go all the way through, and you notice I'm not putting a whole lot of the blade in there. Okay? The reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to go back through the center, cut straight down just through the part that you made the circle in, and then work as gently as you can to pop that out of there. Now you're still going to have seeds in the bottom, so just continue to work through it, and the more cuts you can put in it, the more likely you are to get it to fall out. Again, keep your hand on top and your knife facing down, and then take your peeler or a spoon and just sort of root around in the center and get all those extra seeds out of there. You'll never, ever, ever get it perfect. You're always going to have on the very bottom a little bit of star. You want to make sure the seeds come out, but that little bit of shell that cases the seeds, you're always going to miss a little piece. That's okay, as long as the seeds aren't still in there. And you can see that little bit of bottom, the seeds are all gone, but that little star pattern's still down there. That's not a problem, but we didn't go all the way through the bottom. Okay, you want it so that it'll stay flat. I'm gonna put these right in our pan as we go. Also, before you start this, I've already preheated my oven, but make sure you preheat your oven. 350, 375, depending on your oven. This one probably could have gone to 375, but you know how it works. These are not. These are called jazz apples. I swear. Jazz. J-A-Z-Z. I saved a sticker from every apple so I could remember. And they are downstairs. It is a product that we carry. J-A-Z-Z. The reason we didn't put a specific type of apple on these recipes is because any apple will work. Okay? You want for this particular application, I like a slightly firmer apple. And that's just because when you bake them, they tend to mush and they're going to fall apart anyway. So the firmer you can keep, the better texture you'll get in with them. They're all relatively sweet apples. The only one I have up here that's remotely or semi-tart is the Granny Smith. And the only reason I picked that one is because I think it works well in a salad where you have two different flavors. You go with the sweet and the not sweet. That's just starting to simmer. So we'll let that keep going. I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm going to cut it down a little bit, and you can smell it starting to cook out. And the more you stir this, once it actually starts to boil, the more it will help break it down. Because everything on the outside that gets cooked, the more you stir, it'll help knock that off, and it'll allow the heat quicker to the center. Okay, so the more you play with that one, the better it'll be. Some things they tell you not to stir, like rice, because it gets starchy and clumpy and thick. this is one of those times where you actually want to play with it or stir it around a lot because it'll actually help you cook the product faster. Pop out pretty easy. You get all those seeds out of there. Can you smell it? Just the steam coming out. That's a good thing. I finally got a burner to work. All right, we're gonna peel our last one. Now this recipe calls for 4, and the reason I do 4 is because that's a normal, you know, serving at home. But you can increase it, it'll double, it'll triple. I don't like recipes that you can't do more than once. I don't understand that. If you're gonna write one they can make more of. That one's got a spot in the center. For some reason, it's not letting me cut all the way through it. We'll win. Nah, this is the peeler. Even I can't cut myself with a peeler, I don't think. I don't think, anyway. Lucky for me, I won't feel it if I do, so it's okay. All right, we have our apples all cored out. As you can see, it is a relatively large hole. They're still a very firm apple, okay? They're pretty solid. And what we're gonna do is get rid of all of our mess. I don't need these at the moment. And we don't need this. And we are gonna take a separate mixing bowl. In this bowl, we are gonna add instant oatmeal. How many people have some form of instant oatmeal at home? Okay. I am using apple cinnamon because I have a grocery store full of stuff. If you don't have apple cinnamon, use what you have. If you have a plain version, if you have a honey version, if you have something other than apple cinnamon, it's not going to alter it that much. The reason I'm putting oatmeal in this is because when we bake these, if you just have sugar in it, the sugar turns to liquid and it all runs out the bottom. With having the oatmeal in it, we're going to use the liquid from the walnuts to actually hydrate our oatmeal. So as it bakes and as it thickens, it holds the product in the center of the apples instead of it running all over the pan. The ones that I've already taken out of the oven, after we make our last salad and I get ready to cut those, I'll show you how little juice is in the bottom of that. And had we done that with just pure sugar, all of it would have emptied out of the apples. With these back here, they all still have held shape. And if you can see them, I don't even know if I can pick one up. It's still mounded through the top of it, okay? And that's the reason we don't use just sugar. We do use quite a bit of sugar though. All right, in here we have our oatmeal, we have our wet walnuts. We're gonna add our brown sugar, raisins, and cinnamon, of course. Let's stir this real quick before it gets mad at me. It's starting to get a syrupy consistency. With the sugar that's in there, it's going to syrup. And this apple already, just in that short period of time, has gotten to where it's almost soft, okay? Now, if you had a blender or a food processor, you could probably puree them now, and it would work quickly. Since we're not gonna do that, and most people don't have them at home, I'd rather do it the older way, which is just cooking it consistently for a longer period of time. In here, we have our oatmeal, our wet walnuts, raisins, brown sugar, and cinnamon. And you wanna stir that up so that everything's incorporated together, especially your cinnamon. And it should, as you mix it all together, form a paste. Kind of like a wet sand consistency. And that actually makes it easier to work with because it's not quite as runny. And it'll clump up and ball up. That's that wet sand consistency I'm talking about. It runs through your fingers a little bit, but it's not oozing around. It'll hold its shape if you kind of roll it into a ball. It stays that way. We're going to take those and we're going to drop that down and we're going to pack it in there as tight as we can get it. The more you can get in there, the better it's going to taste. I find that since it's rollable, it's packable, if you can get it skinny and long and get it all the way to the bottom of your apple first and then kind of force it down on top, you get less air pockets in them and it'll help you fill them better. If you put a big ball on top and try and pack it in, that air in the bottom is never going to have any way to get out of it, and then you don't have quite as much stir up in the bottom. These will hold their shape. They should hold their shape through baking, so you can pack them up a little bit above the rim. And everybody knows I love to use my hands as best I can because it's easier to feel with, and you tend to not smash things. With spoons, you tend to push a little harder and you'll crush them. But with these, like I said, I like to be able to feel what we're doing and make sure we're all right. Now, we probably could do one more apple with this mixture, but I managed to throw it on the floor, so we'll just pass for that and I'll feed it to Jess later for a snack. And I'm sure if I leave some of this brown sugar in the bowl when she finds it later, she's good with it. So now that they're packed in there, we can get rid of this. And if you notice, I didn't grease that pan at all. It's not going to leak out that much to where it's really an issue. If you grease your pans, the bottoms of your apples tend to burn a little bit or they'll brown a little more because that butter or that grease tends to affect the skin a little bit. So you don't necessarily need it. Personally, I like to use glass pans. I think they conduct heat a little better. And they're easier to clean up rather than a metal pan. If you have metal pans and not glass, it won't hurt it at all. Simply watch your cooking time a little bit. With a metal pan, heat travels through it faster at first, so it may take a little less. It also reflects a little bit, so it could change your times. Now that we have those ready, we're going to put them in a 350-degree oven. We're going to set our timer for about 25 minutes. So like I said, we baked a few off. If you were to take them out of the oven directly and serve them, put them in a large bowl, put a big scoop of vanilla ice cream on top, and that cold ice cream will help cool down that whole thing. Okay? It'll work very well. Not this evening. Not today. Just a suggestion. Let me rinse the blue cheese off this knife because I don't want blue cheese and oatmeal. I don't know about the rest of you. Now this one you can serve them whole, or you can cut through them, do them in halves, or further yet and do them in quarters, if I can get this one to play. That oatmeal gives you that center. Without that, you just have liquid, and it kind of runs all over the place.